I'm making this video for the Sage Spot girlies because all I have to say is, what the fuck? I read Knotted by Pam Godwin last night. I want to start off by saying, fantastic. I gave it a 5-star and I knew like 25-30% in that it was going to be a 5-star. But it is brutal, like chapter 2, and the shitstorm begins. Our two characters are high school sweethearts. They've grown up together. Their two families own this farm that has like lots of acreage. It's our female lead's 16th birthday and they've kind of snuck out. They have a bonfire. So it's Connor, Jake, our male lead, and Jake's friend, their mutual friend, or is it his brother? I think it's Jake's brother and then Connor's brother. So Jake and Connor sneak off because it's her birthday and he wanted to make it really special, and they're going to lose their virginity to each other in like this romantic, ravine that he had all set up for her to make their first time together super special. They're like deeply in love and have been together for a while. Jake's also like a true cowboy through and through. He's really good with rope and he's very dominant, like kinky. He's totally into like tying her up and is excited to try all the things with his girl. And so they get on a horse, they go to their secret place, and he like ties her to a tree. And he's like going to be all sexy, and like right before the bro gets it in, like right before, they like hear a rustling in the trees. Where's the rustling come from? These dudes in ski masks pop in with the rest of the crew, the two brothers like tied up, gagged, and they pistol whip our brother Jake. He wakes up to poor Connor, the love of his life, being like ass raped by one of the dudes, and then them like talking about how they've already had turns and they're gonna take more turns before they kill them. Pam G does not hold back. You feel like you're watching it happen. And this all starts in chapter 2. Like, thank our lucky stars. Connor's brother, what was his name? Like Lorne or something? I can't remember. He manages to get free immediately. Pow, pow. Shotgun kills the dude who was on top of her. Dead. The other guy flees and he's like, I'm gonna go hunt him down. He frees Jake and all she wants is like to be comforted by Jake. She's like trembling on the floor and he is so like traumatized on his own from just witnessing what happened, and he's so like possessive of her and he's so full of rage that he just wants to also go hunt down the motherfucker who just like sodomized his girl. But he doesn't do that. He goes to hunt with the brother, but they kind of go in separate directions. She hears a gunshot and Jake comes back on a horse and he has the dude like tied with a rope around his neck and he's dragging him back. Dude's pretty worse for wear, rightfully so. But then her brother comes back. He's like, I just shot the dude, but then looks and he's like, but wait, he's right there. Dawning realization, he shot the wrong man. He shot the son of one of like the farm hands who worked on their property. They're about to kill this dude too. And then she says, let's not do that because then it's absolutely premeditated murder. The others might be able to be chopped up to self-defense in our small town. But if we kill this dude right now, you're straight up going to prison forever. And I'd rather send this dude to prison and let's just make a blood oath here and now that when he gets out of prison, we'll do this right. We're gonna kill him, just not now. We're gonna do it later after he's had time to stew in prison for a handful of years. That's what they hope for. So it's a few days later and Connor, she's healing from all of her stuff physically, obviously, and emotionally. And she's not doing too bad. And Jake is just here, like, there for her. He's making her meals. He's, like, sleeping outside of her door at night. Like, helping her shower. He's just the angel that she needs and like the comfort that she needs to help move past this. So after him taking some time off from like his farmhand work, he's got to go back. And him and his brother, they're doing their shit on the farm. She comes riding in on her horse, whose name is Ketchup, which I think is cute because it's spelled like ketchup, the condiment. But she gave him that name because every time she was riding with Jake, she would always say catch up because she was always riding ahead. And I'm like, that's so cute. And this horse was like her beloved animal. So all of a sudden he sees her coming riding on the horizon. He's like, what the fuck? The doctor said you can't ride horses for like 6 more weeks because of your injuries. And he's instantly on the defensive and she's like sobbing. He's like, why are you sobbing? My dad just came to the house with a moving truck. They all live in the same house. It's like a 12-bedroom mansion farmhouse and they all share it. He's like, they packed up all of our shit. Her brother has been sentenced to prison for 10 years. No. Was it 7? I think it was 10 years. Yeah. The other guy got 7 with like opportunity for parole at 6. Bogus. Her dad follows her with the moving truck out into the farm and basically says, yep, we're leaving and there's nothing you can do to stop us. He has like reinforcements come physically restrain the teenage boys while he like chucks her in the moving van. And while they're like ripping them apart, she's like, promise me, like, we'll make this work, whatever. Like, doesn't matter, we're going to be apart. They're telling us that like we can't talk to each other, no more communication. And she's like, promise me that we'll make it through this. And he promises. Her dad flips a fucking switch. He doesn't seem like that bad at first, but as soon as like the moving truck hits and she's like panicking in the car, like fighting him, he like punches her in the face. And then all of a sudden it goes to like, what, a 2-year montage? They're apart. They're living in Chicago. And he has become an alcoholic. He beats her ass all the time. He lets her have no freedom. She can't like have a phone. Whenever she gets access to one, she tries emailing, calling. She's sent packages to Jake and his brother. Her own brother in prison won't take her calls and won't respond to her letters. She's just been ghosted by everybody that she cares about. And she just thinks, oh, they're probably doing the same to them, like keeping them from contacting me. So I just have to bide my time until I turn 18. The eve of her 18th birthday, her dad one more beat the shit out of her because he found keys to a motorcycle that she purchased to get out of Dodge, and he didn't really like that. So he beat her up pretty good, and then when he passed out, she got on that bike and said, you're not my dad anymore, see you never. For the rest of the book, she only refers to her dad by his first name. She's like, he's not my dad anymore. And I think I would kind of feel the same. So she makes it back to the ranch. She sees Jake's car. I feel like you guys know where I'm going with this because I could feel it. The anxiety was just bubbling up within my soul. She bursts into their house. She has this like gift that she made for him in welding class. It was like a leather bracelet and she welded like these horseshoes to look like her initials. So yeah, she brought him this gift. Opens his bedroom door because she hears his voice, and he is in bed, naked, with another woman, and a girl who she always warned him was like after him in high school. It was like someone who they went to high school with. She's like, she's always after you. And he's like, I only have eyes for you, baby. And he's between her legs. Betwixt her thighs. Fuck that. I was like, you're dead to me, Jake. Like, you literally saw your girlfriend get raped by 2 dudes on her 16th birthday when you were going to be losing your virginity to each other. And then you ghosted her for 2 years. Oh, cherry on top, she sees a box on his nightstand full of all of the letters and gifts that she sent him. So, no, his daddy dearest was not keeping that information from him. He got her letters, purposefully never responded, and now he's with another woman. Unforgivable. Normally, shit like this in books makes me go, I will never read this book, but something compelled me to keep it. Like, I had to know there's got to be an explanation for this because it cannot be this simple. He cannot be this cruel. He was so devoted. She says, fuck you, peace out, is on her way to leave and is like, oh, by the way, where's Ketchup? He follows her out and is like, Ketchup's dead. What else is there for her? So she takes her motorcycle, drives, lets herself break down on the side of the road and like sobs her soul out, and then decides from that then and there, I'm not going to feel anything. He doesn't want me. She assumes it's because of the assault and that she's just used up and that he doesn't want her anymore because of that. I hate that she felt that. Next chapter is Jake's POV, and you find out it was all a setup. He didn't actually sleep with this girl. He didn't even kiss her. He like arranged the whole thing to look like that because he knew she was coming. And there's secrets that he's keeping from her. And he needed her to never want to come back to the ranch, to like leave it all behind because her life was in danger. And that's why everyone, him, his brother, and her brother all collectively decided to cut all contact with her, because if she were to come back to the ranch, there were other hitmen who were going to be after her. His brother was like, there's other ways to do this. Let's not make it seem like you're an asshole who cheated on her. And so he did it anyway, and his brother beat the shit out of him for it. And I'm like, yeah, you punched Jake in the fucking face. He deserves it, and he knew he deserved it, and he took it. He took the ass beating. He's like, this is just how it has to be. So she's on scholarship to like Oklahoma State University. She wants to become a veterinarian, and he goes full up stalker. He's always watching her, and she doesn't know it. We know it. It's a year later. She is at a party and hasn't slept with anyone really since her assault. That was like her one and only time, and has decided that she wants to try to get past some of her triggers. She has things like she can't stand when people touch her wrists. She can't stand the smell of whiskey. She can't stand people approaching her from behind or like feeling weight on her back for obvious reasons. But she really wants to be able to move past some of this trauma that she's had and be able to have a sexual experience with someone that's like positive so that she can start healing. But she doesn't really want to get into a relationship. So she goes to this party. It's dark and people are always hooking up in this barn that's like pitch black, and she's out there scouting for a dude to like have a one night stand with, basically. She sees this guy and at first she's, is that Jake? But no, he's got like black curly hair. He's wearing a baseball cap. He's got like a smooth face, and it's so dark that she can't really see him, but he catches her eye and she ends up going with him into like the pitch black barn. They have a sexual encounter, and this whole time I'm like, it's Jake. It's Jake in a shitty disguise, and it sucks that she believes it, but it's absolutely Jake. And it was. He saved his virginity, and when he found out that she was scouting out, he disguised himself to go hook up with her so that she could still be his first time. That made me feel a little bit better about his assholey-ish ways. But it didn't totally, like, the hurt them to save them is almost never necessary. There's just always a better way. But this was a good book. She also felt super comfortable with him because it's Jake. He's been watching her, and he's become sort of privy to her triggers. And that was something that men who would hit on her would always do, like small things that would trigger her, or even people in like school who would approach her from behind. They would like touch her arm and she would freak out and have like a panic attack. And he just made her feel really comfortable because he knew. After he nuts, he basically pieces out and she doesn't see him again for 4 years. 4-year time jump. And the guy who raped her, who was in prison, he's getting out in 2 weeks. And because of their blood oath, they all like cut their palms and They all have the matching scars that reminds them that when this guy gets out of prison, they're gonna hunt him down and seek justice. So he's getting out of prison. She's going home. She's also dating one of her old professors, and he is absolutely cheating on her. And she knows it, and she confronts him about it. And he's like, baby, no, I would never. But in her mind, she's like, all men cheat. So he's no different than other dudes. And at least I don't love him. So even though she liked him and it still hurt, it wasn't as painful, obviously, as Jake, the love of her life, and what he did and cracked her soul in half. She gets on her bike, vroom, 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 rides back to her hometown, goes to a bar, because obviously, what else do you do in small towns when you're a cool chick who's now covered in tattoos and has a motorcycle? You go to a bar, and she instantly stumbles upon a table of a bunch of women talking about how they've all fucked Jake. One woman was like, yeah, he fucked me, like, against his truck or something like that, and gave me 17 orgasms, and I'm like, okay, Jake. 17? That's a lot. I think like 10 is my max for a 24-hour period. Insanity. She has no problem whirling on them and saying, oh, my Jake, the one who had to witness me being gang raped when we were in love. Oh yeah, so cool of you to know that I'm right here and to be saying shit like that to me when you know that he rejected me after that incident because he thinks I'm worthless. Ha ha ha. Who happens to be right behind her when she's standing up for herself? Jake! And he's grown a lot. He's manlier now. He's harder now. All around, emotionally, physically. Especially for her. And he has spent the last 4 years like uncovering all of these secrets on like why people were after her, and like mafiaing, like hitmanning all the people who were dangerous to her. He's also been keeping tabs. He hired like PI to investigate all the people who were in her life. He went full psycho, but in like a hot book boyfriend way, if you know what I mean. And now that she's back for them to complete their blood oath, he is like, I'm gonna get her back. I'm going to slowly explain everything. But one thing that was annoying, but that I liked for the plot, was that she, because of all of her trauma, was very jaded. And he wanted to try to help her heal some of that. I didn't always agree with his methods. He was a little forceful about some of it sometimes. She obviously didn't want to confront her traumas. And so he would hold information and use it almost as ransom to like force her to take steps into healing. So for instance, he'd be like, I'll tell you one thing that you want to know. Like, ask me any question and I'll give you the honest answer. If you do blah, blah, blah. Like one time he knows about her wrist issues. So he was like, ask me a question while I'm holding onto your wrist and focus on the question. And I'll tell you, like, he just wanted her to work through all of her stuff. Sometimes it was brutal. This guy is not a therapist, so sometimes I was like, are you helping her or harming her? But his intentions were really good, and I do feel like in the end, he really did help her work through a lot of that stuff, and she never stopped loving him, which is why she had to be so jaded to, like, keep herself from emotional more damage. Also, I know that this shouldn't matter, but part of me was very grateful that he saved his virginity for her. And I was like, okay, that placates me emotionally a little bit. But then I was mad that after that, he decided to hoe around. Like, he's literally banged almost every woman in town. And he just blames it on how he was trying to forget her and like move on because he didn't know if he'd ever get to a place where it would be safe for her to come back. He was just trying to forget. I'm like, it never works. It never works. And I didn't really like that. No, oh. He's also like a kinky dude. Has been since before he was even sexually active. He had fantasies about like bondage and dominance and things like that, which I'm a fan. But he also really likes anal. And that was like a hard no for her. She's like, you were there and you know why. But he was really patient with her throughout this whole book. Like, as soon as she came back, he worked with her through all of it. He had like these sessions, he would call it like therapy weeks leading up to this dude getting out of prison, where he took 2 weeks off of work, and not that 2 weeks is enough time to like heal completely, but just to like get her to open the door and to start trusting. I felt like that part of the book, like I said earlier, some parts I was like, in real life, would this be healthy? I'm not sure. But because they really were made for each other and they had such love and like connection beforehand, I think a lot of that carried into him being able to reach her in those really dark and hurtful places, especially since like he was there too. And he was able to work through a lot of his traumas from witnessing that. He didn't want them to sleep together until he was able to tell her everything and full transparency before they were intimate again, which I really appreciated. And that's why he was slowly giving her bits and pieces that she could work through and process. But once all the information is out there, you end up finding out that both of their dads were crooked. They were in it deep with some like high up dangerous like oil tycoons, people who their property is on like a huge oil, what do you call it, tap. And Jake and his brother has spent the last few years literally like hunting down, murdering, and disposing of the bodies like on their property in that ravine where everything happened in the beginning of the book. And they wanted to basically take out anyone who would be a potential threat to Connor. So now that everything is safe, the last thing that needs to be done is to take out the one dude who's coming out of prison and get her brother eventually out. He's still in prison, and he was at the end of this book, but I'm hoping that maybe one of these books will be about him, maybe. And the reason that they were after Connor, not just Connor, but her brother too, was because when their mom died, since her family technically owned the property, everything was put in their names. But as soon as they turned, like they didn't have power of attorney until they turned 18. So on the night that the attack happened, her older brother had just turned 18. It wasn't his birthday, but he had just recently turned 18, and that's when they decided to strike. And hitmen were hired by the dad, not their dad, but Jake's dad, to take out the kids because they technically co-owned the property, so that they could have control and they could have people come in, tap the oil, make money, so that they could pay off all of their debts that they had gathered from these crooked people. Can you imagine being so fucking selfish that you would literally murder 2 kids that you watched grow up and kind of helped raise on your own farm because you're so fucking selfish? Disgusting. And they totally would have gotten away with it because Jake's dad had like the sheriff in town in his pocket. Like he was in on it, and he was going to help cover up the murders of Connor and her brother. Sickening. But Jake has it all handled. He's blackmailed the blackmailers. His dad, he's not saying anything because he has all the dirt he needs to send his dad away for a very long time. And he got his dad to sign over all the documents saying that he doesn't have any rights. And the book ended with a pretty good spicy scene. I almost wish it was spicier. I felt like there was so much tension, and sometimes the actual sex felt like it was too quick. But the tension throughout the book was so good that I think it felt a lot spicier than the actual sex was. Does that make sense? But I still gave this book 5 stars. I loved everything, like anything that can keep my attention, get me heated, but like want me to finish it through the heat. It's a no-brainer. It was my first 5-star read of 2023. It ends with that guy getting out of prison. They murder him really fast, bury his body. It's like the last body on their list. They fulfilled the blood oath. They pour concrete over all the bodies that they dumped in the ravine, and they plan on building like a veterinary office on top of it. So there you go. I loved this. You should absolutely read it. I know that we didn't pick it for our book pick this month, but I'm so glad that I read it anyway, and I cannot wait for the rest of the series.